Deep inside the Menenji Temple in Hokkaido, Japan, the monks guard a single wooden box. The security around this object feels completely out of place. Visitors are allowed to see what is inside, but the rules are absolute. You cannot take photographs under any circumstances. Even more unusually, the monks tightly restrict how long anyone is allowed to look at it. Staring for too long consistently triggers severe, vivid nightmares in tourists. The monks maintain this strict protocol because the object inside requires constant physical maintenance. It possesses human hair that never stops growing, and they must regularly trim it back to keep it manageable. This high-security box contains a mass-produced children's toy. To understand how a simple porcelain doll evolved into a biologically active artifact requiring institutional containment, we have to look at the exact sequence of events that created it. The timeline starts in 1918. 17-year-old Ikichi Suzuki lived with his family in extreme poverty. His father worked grueling labor jobs just to keep food on the table, and his mother took in sewing to make ends meet. Ikichi's little sister, Kikuko, was turning 4, and she desperately wanted a doll. For an entire month, Ikichi picked up every odd job he could find, hoarding tiny amounts of cash until he finally had enough. He bought her a beautiful, high-quality, traditional Japanese doll dressed in a bright red kimono with a porcelain face and black synthetic hair cut strictly to the neckline. Kikuko was ecstatic. She named the doll Okiku and refused to be separated from it. She brushed its hair, slept next to it, and carried it everywhere she went. Then a minor accident turned fatal. While playing outside, Kikuko was bitten by a mosquito and contracted an aggressive strain of malaria. Her condition deteriorated rapidly. In extreme agony, Kikuko held the Okiku doll tight against her chest, refusing to let it go until she took her final breath. In Japanese tradition, a deceased person's favorite possession is cremated alongside them in the funeral pyre. Eikichi and his parents wanted to send the Okiku doll into the fire with Kikuko, but the local temple priests rigidly applied their bureaucratic rules and denied permission for the doll to be burned. Blocked from the pyre, the family placed the doll on a shelf in their hall. The object remained in the home as a permanent memorial, a physical anchor for a family's grief that was now denied its traditional conclusion. The haunting began quietly. Late at night, Eikichi started waking up to faint whispers echoing from the empty family hall. Often he would hear a child softly giggling in the dark. Soon after, the doll exhibited its first physical anomaly. The rigid, synthetic black hair that was originally manufactured to stop exactly at the neckline had inexplicably grown down to its shoulders. This diagram compares synthetic doll hair and frayed human hair. The doll's hair physically changed into organic material, developing a brown hue and human-like split ends. Dismissing this as an illusion, Eikichi's mother took scissors and forcefully snipped it back to the neckline. That specific action triggered an immediate response. That night, the mother suffered a brutal nightmare where Kikuko approached her, crying over her cut hair, before her face contorted into rage. The mother woke up screaming. The physical doll was no longer on the shelf, but sitting directly on her chest in the dark. The family realized too late that cutting the hair had breached a threshold. Physically altering the anomaly escalated the situation from a series of passive environmental noises into an active, aggressive threat. Paranormal activity in the house exploded. Small, dark shadows darted across rooms. Kikuko's old drawings violently scattered, and the porcelain doll blinked. Pushed to the brink of a breakdown, Ikichi's father decided to break the cycle. He took the doll out into a distant, empty field and buried it deep in the dirt. The retaliation was swift. That night, while all three slept in the same room, they were awakened by violent pounding on their door. The shaking localized entirely on their home, accompanied by the agonizing screams of a little girl outside. When the shaking stopped, the father carefully slid the door open. The Okiku doll was standing upright on the threshold. Before he could react, the doll's hair extended, wrapping tightly around his neck. He fell to his knees, choking, until Eikichi screamed Kikuko's name into the dark. Only then did the hair go slack, and the doll collapsed. The doll had returned from its grave and established absolute dominance over the home. The family now realized that as long as they remained in the house, the object would dictate their reality. The Suzuki family didn't immediately pack up and run away. Trapped by their financial reality and their own terror, they endured this haunted existence inside that house for 20 continuous years. The haunting operated on a strict cycle. The violence and paranormal activity would spike drastically every year around Kikuko's birthday. They brought in dozens of priests to cleanse the property, but every single attempt only provoked the doll into worse retaliation. Finally, after 2 decades of psychological torment, the family reached their breaking point. They abandoned the house entirely and handed the artifact over to the Mononenji temple, permanently surrendering it to the monks. The temple did not offer a cure. The monks quickly realized the phenomenon could not be stopped. Instead, the temple simply became a heavily guarded containment facility for an object that had long outlasted its original owners. Today, nearly 100 years later, the monks at the Mononenji temple are still forced to perform the ritual of cutting the doll's continuously growing human hair. But the anomaly is evolving. Recently, observers have documented a new mutation. The doll's porcelain mouth, which was manufactured as a solid, closed piece, is slowly shifting open over time. As the gap widens, the monks have noticed a change in the darkness behind those lips. Actual teeth are beginning to sprout from the porcelain interior. It leaves us with a chilling question. Is the Okiku doll a vessel for a traumatized little girl's soul, or has a century of grief transformed a simple gift into something entirely different?